You broke up with your partner, and even though you feel like you had some very good reasons at the time, in the cold light of day, you are starting to feel some regrets. So here's what's really going on, and here's what to do about it. Hi, love. I'm Carisa Montooth, love coach and 6th generation energy healer, creator of the Soul Love Method course. And today we are talking about what to do when you regret your breakup. So it's really important to understand what is behind these feelings of regret, because more often than not, it doesn't mean that you're supposed to get back together with that person, right? It doesn't mean that the breakup was a mistake. Exes are usually exes for a reason, right? It wasn't a match. So usually what's really going on is that you have what I call a breakup wound, which is this thing that's happening in your energy that feels like this intense emotional thing that's going on. And each one of them has a little bit different of a flavor and needs to be dealt with in a different way, but often they can be mistaken for regret. So let's dive into that and figure out what that is. But before we do that, I want you to remember 3 things, because we're going to go to some really dark places when we talk about these breakup wounds, and we're going to talk about what to do about them. But as we are going into these breakup wounds, I want you to remember 3 things. I want you to remember that you are worthy of love. I want you to remember that everything can be healed. And I want you to remember that the relationship you want is still possible for you. It is still possible for you to have a happy, healthy, loving, committed relationship. Okay? So take a really deep breath and let's dive into what these breakup wounds are and how to heal them. So the first one that you may be feeling if you have broken up with someone, and you may be mistaking this feeling for regret. And let's talk about really quickly what regret is, right? Regret is that feeling that, like, I made a mistake. I should have done this differently. That's what regret is. And you may be in pain, or you may be in some kind of emotional discomfort, but that doesn't mean you made a mistake. Okay? So let's look at this first breakup wound, and that wound is fear. Now, you might be feeling like you're afraid because now this breakup, even though you had to break up with this other person, this breakup is evidence that you are unlovable. You may be afraid that that's what that means. You may be afraid that now that you're by yourself, you're going to have to figure out who you are outside of the context of a relationship, and that seems scary for you. You may be afraid because there is a loss of status with a breakup in society, right? Because we have this thing called couples privilege that not a lot of people talk about. But it's essentially what it means is that we sort of regard people who are coupled as being more emotionally mature or more stable in a lot of ways than people who are single. And you can see this reflected in a lot of different ways in society. It's not right, it doesn't make sense, but we do that, and we are aware of that. And it's one of the things that keeps us from wanting to break up and puts pressure on us to stay in a relationship, even if that relationship's not a good relationship for us. So that loss of status might be something that you're afraid of now that you're moving forward as a single person. Another thing is that you may feel that, especially if you have a really busy life and a busy career, you may feel like it's really hard to try to find a new partner now, especially someone who is really compatible with me, or you may feel like no one will ever love me that way again. That's a fear that comes up a lot. And the thing I want to tell you about that particular fear is, in a way it's true, because each relationship or each connection has its own energy, it has its own flavor. But what we a lot of times will discount is the idea that we can have a love that fits us much better. We can have a love that is much more compatible for us. And it won't feel exactly like that love that we had before. So, and that can be a good thing. That can sometimes be a good thing. So know that these are fears that can be addressed. right? And I actually have programs that can help you with that. But before we get into that, let's talk about some of the other possibilities that this feeling of regret could actually be. One is it could be grief, right? So grief is a breakup wound that happens, and sometimes what it means is that you just miss the presence of this person in your life. Just pure and simple, you miss the presence of this person in your life. You miss the companionship, you miss the comfort of it, you miss being able to rely on it, all of those kinds of things. And that's what's called an innocent grief. Another type of grief is when you are grieving for the potential. So you were so looking forward to what that relationship was going to become, especially down the road, right? That you were grieving for the potential of it now. You know, the thing about grief is that you definitely want to take some time out before you start dating if you feel like it's really grief instead of regret. Because when you date in the energy of grief, you attract more things to make you grieve. You attract more things, more reasons to grieve into your life. So it's definitely good to wait and let some of that grief be able to subside, you know, let it get to a healthy place. Another breakup wound that it could be instead of regret is shame. So if you feel like you put too much into it, or you put up with it for too long before you ended it, you could feel a sense of shame about that. You could feel a sense of shame about it if you feel like you sacrificed too much of yourself and who you really are so that you wouldn't have to be alone, which is a really common thing that people do, and a common source of shameful feelings, right? You could feel like you waited for them to move forward for too long, and this feeling of like, I should have known they were never going to do it, and that can create a shame wound for you when you break up. And you can also have shame around certain things because you can make judgments about what that means about you as a person. So you can make judgments about like, you can say things like, I am too old to be going through all of this drama still. You know, why can't I nail this relationship thing? Why isn't it working for me? You know, and you can have a sense of shame around that. Or if there's a certain pattern that keeps repeating in terms of your breakup, or in terms of certain characteristics that all of your unsatisfying relationships that end always have, but you keep doing it over and over again, there can be a sense of shame around that. Like, why can't I just break this cycle? Why can't I just break this pattern? And shame is a really insidious thing because it makes you want to hide. And if you're hiding, then you can't create a relationship that's based on honesty with the next person, right? And you also can't really heal that sense of shame if you're not willing to shine a light on it, right? Shame is one of those things that thrives in darkness and silence, right? So we have to shine a light on it to be able to heal it. And then the last breakup wound could be anger. And you might be thinking, if I'm the one who did the breaking up, why am I angry, right? And there are a couple of reasons that you could be angry. One is that you could be angry that this person didn't make the changes that would have made the relationship successful, that would have made the relationship last, in your opinion, right? You can be like, we've talked about this a billion times and all they had to do was make this change and they never did it. And I'm so angry with them because it's their fault and this is all ruined because of them, right? That's anger. That's a source of, that can be a significant source of anger for you. Another way that this regret could be showing up as anger is that you could be really angry with yourself for what you put up with. Or you could be missing this person even though you know that they're not right for you, and even if they've mistreated you, and you could be angry with yourself for that. You could be like, why am I missing them? Why am I feeling like I'm not done with them even after all that they did, or even after how they treated me? Why do I still miss them? I'm so angry with myself. I should be able to get over this. I should not love them still in this way, right? And as soon as we start saying should to ourselves, we're really getting into a place of shaming ourselves, right? So that adds shame to the anger, and you can tell that these things compound and get very complicated. So now you might be thinking, okay, so I recognized myself and I recognized my thoughts and some of those things that you said, but now what in the heck am I supposed to do about any of that? Here is what you can do about it. The first thing is to recognize that even though you are missing someone, that is not necessarily a sign that they belong in your life. Okay? So it may feel powerful and intense, but it is not significant, right? It doesn't mean act on that. Get that person back into your life. It doesn't mean that. It could mean that you are intensely like addicted to that person. We get addicted to people. We get addicted to love. Love is a series of chemical reactions that are happening in us, and a particular person who triggers that series of chemical reactions becomes associated with that. So we think of that as love, right? And so we can still be going through withdrawals and think that like that means we need to be back with that person. That doesn't mean we need to be back with that person. 9 times out of 10, it means we need to keep moving forward to something that's healthier for us and let time heal that for us. But what do we do during that time, right? What do we do while we're waiting for time to do its thing and help to heal our hearts? There are a few things we can do to make that time pass more easily and more productively and put us in a position to have a happy, healthy relationship going forward. And one of those things is to forgive ourselves. And I don't want you to worry about forgiving other people just yet. I know that a lot of people, preach the idea of forgiveness and that you're not really like a spiritual person if you're holding a grudge and that you should just forgive people and you should be over it and you should move on. I'm not going to tell you that at all. There are some things that you may not be ready to forgive, and that's okay. Sometimes people are pressuring you to forgive, and it's not appropriate for you to forgive yet. Sometimes it has more to do with them feeling comfortable than with you feeling safe or with you feeling getting to have your righteous anger addressed and put boundaries in place to protect yourself. You're allowed to do those things. You do not have to forgive. So when we're talking about forgiveness here, the idea of forgiving someone else, let's table that for the future. I'm talking about forgiving yourself. That's where we need to start with forgiveness, is forgiving ourselves. And that's the most important thing, because we're usually hardest on ourselves. No matter how much that person did to us, 9 times out of 10, we're angrier with ourselves because we let it happen. Once we actually start to be in a place where we understand our responsibility for creating our lives and we're not constantly looking at ourselves as victims of our circumstances, we start to realize how responsible we are for allowing someone to do things in our lives. And that's where we need to engage that forgiveness. That's where we need to get into that deep self-forgiveness, is forgiving ourselves, because that's how we can restore our sense of like our trust in our own judgment for the future. We have to start by forgiving ourselves. So things that you may need to forgive yourself for. You may need to forgive yourself for mistakes that you feel like you made. And you may need to forgive yourself for unhealthy expectations that you had. That's a big one, of that relationship and what you thought that it could be. You may need to forgive yourself for how you unintentionally mistreated yourself or allowed yourself to be mistreated. And forgiving yourself is the most important kind of forgiveness that you can do. So that's a big thing. Another thing is that you can fill your time while you're healing, while you're waiting for this time to pass, to heal your heart and to get over your withdrawals, right? Is that you can fill your time with healthy distractions. Healthy distractions are things like that friend who always has your back no matter what. And even if you know in the back of your mind you were wrong, this is the friend who is like, she just has your back. It doesn't matter. No matter what you say, no matter what you did, she has your back. Everybody needs that friend. I have 2. You have to be able to call them no matter what and just be like, this happened. And they're like, always on your side. It does not matter what you did. Everybody deserves that kind of deep loyalty from a close friend, So spend time with those kinds of friends. Another thing you can do in terms of healthy distractions is that you can get your financial life in order. Sometimes we stay in a situation too long and don't break up when we needed to because we're worried about supporting ourselves financially, or we're worried about how we will move forward in life without a partner to contribute financially. Get your financial house in order, because it gives you power in the world. And then you can make decisions based on love, not based on fear of lack. You can make decisions not only to get into a relationship based on love, but to stay in the relationship based on love. Whether or not to stay, it will be based on love, not based on your fear of scarcity and not having enough and not being provided for and those kinds of things. Get your financial house in order. It is never too early or too late to start. Just do that. It's important. Another thing is take care of your physical health. After a breakup, a lot of times our bodies respond to a breakup as though we have been physically wounded. So we have inflammation in our bodies and a lot of times in our joints. We can feel achy, we can feel exhausted, and that's real. That's not just something that's you're imagining or it's just in your head or something like that, and you're thinking like, all I did today was go to work and try to deal with this breakup. Well, physically, your body feels like you've been beat up. So it needs to recuperate from that. You need to give yourself time to rest and recover from that. So immediately after a breakup, treat your body, really baby your body, be very gentle with your body, try to get extra rest and drink extra water and things like that. Do the things that make you feel comfy. Wrap up in comfy blankets, make sure that you feel warm enough, make sure that your bed is comfy enough. Take nice warm baths if that's comfortable for you. Eat those comfort foods that make you feel better, those kinds of things. Do that immediately after a breakup. Give yourself that. And then as time goes on and you start to feel like you're getting the rest that you need and you're hydrated like you need to be and those kinds of things, move into exercise that is right for your body and that feels good for you, because it's going to make you feel stronger and more confident when you move out into the world. And not just necessarily in dating, but just in your life, because your body is your physical vehicle for making things happen here, right? For agency in the world, in this physical realm. So strengthen it so that you can feel confident that you can handle things and be able to move into that kind of a future for yourself. Another thing is look at new passions for yourself. And that doesn't necessarily mean in terms of love, but what is it that you're passionate about that you have not had enough time to explore? What have you not had enough time to discover? Is there a musical instrument that you've always been wanting to play or that you used to play a long time ago and haven't played in a while? Is there a hobby that you had a while ago and you've just never spent time on it? I know that it seems kind of cheesy and we think like, oh, that's not going to make me feel better. It is actually, because your mind a lot of times can't think of more than one thing really at the same time. So give it something to focus on instead of your grief, instead of your fear, instead of your loss, instead of whatever the thing is. Go for walks, do some gardening, do stuff like that. Reconnect with things that you were passionate about in the past. Now that you have some time to do that, give yourself that. And then if you feel like getting back into the dating world right away, that's awesome. I've got an online program that will actually help you with that, and you can check it out in the description. And my philosophy about online dating is to get in there, get lots of really yummy attention really, really fast, and then take those connections into a real life match. And that's what I help my clients do. So if that is what you're about, if you want to be courted, then that's what my program is about. You'll check it out in the description. But if you feel like taking some time out to heal your heart first, then that is great too. Because then you're going to do what feels best for you. You're going to bring the healthiest you back out into the world at the healthiest time. And that's fantastic. And if that's the case, then you're going to want to check out my overnight heartache cure audio healing program, because that is going to help you recover from your breakup by healing the 5 breakup wounds while you sleep, which are fear, anger, confusion, shame, and grief, and helping you be able to become magnetic to new love. So now I want to hear from you. I want to hear from the high vibe single ladies. I want to hear from the spiritually awake daters out there. In your last relationship, did you cry more or did you laugh more? Tell me in the comments and think about that, because sometimes, we may have all of this regret, but when we think about it, the relationship didn't make us that happy. We had more sad times or difficult times than happy times. So I want you to tell me in the comments, did you cry more in your last relationship or did you laugh more? Tell me in the comments. I can't wait to read and respond. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe. And remember that self-love is the best love. So love you first, love you best, and all other kinds of love will flow to you. Take care.